noticed, I was watching, flicking through TikTok, and there was this video where our Prime Minister had gone to a hospital, and he gave, and all these NHS staff, and I don't know what they were they nurses, physios, I'm not quite sure. And he sort of was giving this talk that we've kept our promise and we've done this, and it's all drivel. It's all drivel, waffle. And I read the comments sometimes just to get an insight of how people are viewing. Are you viewing it the way I'm viewing it? Do you have a different opinion? That's quite interesting. What is your opinion? And it was like, were these people paid? Did these people really want to go? Has no one realised how the Tories has completely messed up the country? The fact that you need a mortgage to get loop butter. That something's gone really wrong. People forgotten how the pandemic, sort of went out, and the changing the Home Secretary. People forgot it. No, we'll go and smile for the camera and we'll say thank you to him. He's destroying the NHS, but we'll pretend that's not happening. And and again, should we be okay with this in the midst of all the strikes? And I'm sure there will be a BMA strike again, and people are not happy. People are really demoralised in the NHS on all levels. Yeah, we're okay. We should go and say thank you and sit with them. I would have refused. I have no interest in this government. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel like they're just slowly destroying the NHS. And you know what? They will do their best to sell it off. And I have this conversation quite a bit about what would happen if the NHS went private. If our UK health system went private, how would that go down? And I know people call it'll be like the American system, but I want to put something out there. It'll be like the American system for the patient, right? They're going to need insurance. There will likely be some sort of two-tier system. It's not going to be great for the rest of the staff in the health service at the moment. We're not suddenly going to be like American doctors living in big houses and big salaries. And if you are non-medic and you think that's how doctors live, you're very much mistaken. And so it's going to be really hard, and nurses are not going to make more money. Physios and radiographers and everyone else across the board will not make more money. The money will be generated at the top. So it's not like an American system for everyone. It's an American system for the patients, and then you're going to have shareholders and people at the top that are going to be in the insurance company that's going to make a lot of money. But us as staff will not benefit, and I just don't believe we're not going to benefit. And this is what again I want to say to people who are non-medical. The reason why the NHS, the members of not just doctors, all of us are proud of the NHS and do not want the NHS to go, is not because it will affect us, because I don't think it would affect us. It's going to affect the patient. It's going to affect our families who use the health service. And we know how difficult, if we want to talk about the American system, look at the problems they have. They can't pay their healthcare. They struggle when it comes to health. You watch movies, American movies, it's a theme in all these films. And so, essentially, that's the problem we're going to have, right? We're going to have that problem. And, as in our families are going to have that problem. We don't want to watch our families go. I would be really sad. My parents both have chronic conditions. I'd be really sad to see how they would cope. I'll do my best, of course. and my brother and sister, we would all chip in to do our best. But it would be, if this was happening now with inflation and everything else that's more expensive, and people are struggling already, to add that as another burden. So I know there's people online and people frustrated. I can't get an appointment. I've got to wait so long, and they think it would be better if the NHS wasn't around. They're relying on your frustration to make a rash decision. And you should never make a decision out of frustration, because you always pretty much most of the time will make a bad decision. So, I don't know what we were thanking him for, so I was sort of gone a little tangent, but I felt like I had to express myself. I'm an extrovert. I've got to process these things, right? But that's the truth, okay? That's the reality. And the other thing that really got to me was, it reminded me of when I was working, outside London, and one of the things that I saw in the canteen was collection of food on a table, and I thought maybe this was some sort of charity run, and someone told me, no, this is a food bank for staff. And there was a sign that if you're struggling, if you need any of these items, take it. And that really blew my mind. We are at a point where our nurses and our other healthcare sort of members of our team cannot afford basic things, that they're relying on food banks in the hospital. That no longer do you just have food banks in particular. The fact that we have food banks is one thing. The fact that now the food banks are now in the hospital for staff specifically, it just blew my mind. I remember, in the same hospital, I had nurses who could not afford to have lunch. They would bring a slice of bread, a couple of slices of bread. They would bring a can of beans. They would just have beans on toast. They could not afford this. And that's really messed up, isn't it? That nurses cannot afford to have a proper lunch. And what are we doing to our staff? We're nurses, for me, are amazing individuals. I am as good as I am as a doctor because of nurses. I when I first walked into the workplace, it was the nurses that really helped me and showed me, sort of mentored me into being a doctor, gave me the confidence. When you're in really bad situation, it's the good nurse that really helps you to navigate your way through it. Sort of this, voice in the back of your head that's telling you, sort of helping you out. It's a partnership. It's not a hierarchy. And I hate the idea people sometimes think of doctors and nurses as a hierarchy. It's a partnership. You know what? And I really feel we don't appreciate our nurses on so many levels. And it's one of the reasons I've been very passionate towards nursing education, because they do so much and they have true bonds with their patients. Doctors come and go and they're busy doing multiple things, but there's always one nurse looking after a group of patients for the whole day, will come back and forth onto their shifts and develop real relationships. And I think we really undermined the impact our nurses have, along with all the other staff as well. And I just think, why were we there clapping for him, the Prime Minister? Why would we smiling for the photo? It should be holding it to account. Should have showed him the food bank, but we don't. And I think they're very clever the way they use media to, sort of divert our attention to other things. And it actually irritated me when I saw that. I was just like, that's just not